let's start off 2026 with an easy one because it's only 6 books. The books I did not finish in 2025. The ones I DNF'd. Did not finish. Did not finish, yes. So there's only 6 of these. I should have not finished actually more. There was one book I was reading in September that made me just not want to read anything else. Well, it's not that I didn't want to read other things. It was that I felt compelled to finish it because I was interested in the story. I just didn't like the writing or the pacing or a lot of things. So I should have just DNF'd it. That would have been number 7. Wouldn't you like to know what it was? But I'm not going to tell you. Instead, we're going to start with the first book I DNF'd in January of last year, January 18th. Oh my gosh. Almost exactly 1 year ago, was Even As We Breathe by Annette Sanook Clapsaddle. I was only 15% of the way through chapter 5, and I just didn't like the writing. I think I was reading this at a cafe with a friend, and I stopped my friend and I was like, can you please listen to this sentence and tell me if you think this makes sense or am I just crazy? And I read her the sentence and she was like, yeah, no, I'm not following that sentence. So yeah, I said it felt choppy, too many sentences that had contrived or unclear metaphors. I don't know, maybe it's just me. Maybe you read this and you liked it, or maybe other people have read this and really liked it. Or I remember seeing somewhere in reviews or something that a teacher was reading this with students, I want to say, that their students really liked it. So maybe it's a book, I don't know if it's YA, but yeah, the writing was not working with me, with my brain, with what I was wanting to read. Attempting to read more would just really stress me out, so I made the choice to stop at 15%. Let it be known that I just get less wise as the year goes on. This is probably the wisest DNF, the earliest DNF. I feel like we should all be DNFing way sooner. We should just read like 2 pages and then be like, you know what, this isn't for me. But I think they all just become longer and more painful for me as the year goes on. The next book that I DNF'd is The Sentence by Louise Erdrich. I was listening to this on audiobook. I think I actually started this on the train in Japan from Osaka to Kyoto, which I think the train is like 40 minutes, an hour. So I listened to like an hour, maybe like another 2 hours after that. Once we got to the hotel, I was there with my brother, shouts out. So more than just a few chapters, I was 39% of the way through. See, that's much further than 15%. I should tell you the plot of this. The plot of the book before this, Even As We Breathe, honestly couldn't really tell you. I think it's about a boy and a girl, and there's some adventure. It wasn't for me. The Sentence, this book, it's like a family drama from what I remember, and the main character is like a woman in her 40s or 50s. She's in a relationship and she has like a stepdaughter, and she does not have a great relationship with the stepdaughter. And also importantly, this book is supposed to take place like during COVID. It takes place from fall 2019 to fall 2020. That's like a year, right? So hypothetically, from fall 2019, that's pre-pandemic, right? Pandemic stuff started happening in February, March of the next year. That's only like, 3 months? At 40%. We should be in pandemic, right? But when I was at 40% of the book, when I DNF'd it, we were not yet at the point where the pandemic started. So, 40% of a year is less than 50, which is 6 months. Oh my God. Wait. So, okay, let's say it's October. October, November, December, January, February, March. Okay, so 6 months, sure. We're not yet at the point where 6 months. Whatever. You know what? I don't need to tell you this. I don't need to justify this to you. But yeah, we were at 40%, and I wrote that I just felt like I was walking in circles, chained to a meandering tour guide for days. How are we at 40% and still in 2019? That was the thing. It's like, it's not even that we weren't at the pandemic yet. It's that we were still in that fall, early winter. The thing I mentioned about the main character having a rough relationship with her stepdaughter. So they're both full-grown women, right? Main character is a lady in her 50s. I think her stepdaughter was like in her 20s and had a child, maybe had 2 children. So again, full-grown adults. And this woman, the main character, was saying that her stepdaughter was evil. I don't know, that's kind of like, one of you is older and it's not the stepdaughter. Kind of unhinged to just be calling someone evil. Kind of immature. Whatever. Anyway, tee-hee-hee, not funny to me. So, can you tell it was a little personal? Guys, I'm fine. I graduated from therapy like 2 months ago. Okay, the next book. Oh, and that was in February that I DNF'd that. The next book that I DNF'd was a YA book. The book is by Axie, The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea. It is a fantasy, historical fantasy, or I guess just fantasy. Like, it's kind of old-timey. Oh, it's a retelling of a Korean folk tale, the tale of Shimjong. And I think it's like this girl, and her older sister is like really pretty or whatever, and is supposed to be like this sacrifice. It says, deadly storms have ravaged Mina's homeland for generations. Her people believe the sea god, once their protector, now curses them with death and despair. In an attempt to appease him, each year a beautiful maiden is thrown into the sea to serve as the sea god's bride, in hopes that one day the true bride will be chosen and end the suffering. Many believe that Shimchong, the most beautiful girl in the village and the beloved of Mina's older brother Jun, may be the legendary true bride. But on the night Chong is to be sacrificed, Jun follows Chong out to sea, even knowing that to interfere is a death sentence. To save her brother, Mina throws herself into the water instead of her brother Jun's beloved. Anyway, so it's a retelling of a Korean folk tale. I think I would have liked this story a lot as like a younger person in middle school, maybe in high school, maybe. I just found the writing a little young, which makes sense. It is young adult. I am young, but I'm not a young adult, you know? And my less than charitable review, I said, this feels self-published, but it's not. So, sorry. I stopped it at 24%. It felt a little self-published. And what do I mean by that? Maybe I mean it felt maybe like it could do with some more editing, not on like a line level, maybe just like on a story or like character level. I seem to remember it just being a little flat, which I mean it's YA, so I think it's meant to be for a younger audience. That I don't think a younger audience is really like, give me some depth to the characters, you know? They're just kind of like, they want a fun time. So maybe it's perfectly adequate for the age group. I'm just not in the age group, which is a fair thing. It's a mismatch of demographics. The next book that I DNF'd was in March 21st, 2025 specifically. And it was Seven Samurai Swept Away in a River by Moon Jung-young. On the book, it's Jung-young-moon. So I'm going to say Jung-young-moon. Seven Samurai Swept Away in a River. How do I explain this book? So maybe something to know about this author is that the author has like a cult following, which makes me think that this is not like a widely beloved author. It's just like, if you like this author, you like this author. So with that in mind, also this is in translation, originally published in Korean. Seven Samurai Swept Away in a River is, I think, in part based on the author's actual experience of living in Texas. He lived in Texas and stayed with his artsy friends, or maybe it was an art residency. I remember this of the story vaguely. But this is basically the worst type of stream of consciousness you could try to ask someone with ADHD to read. Someone with ADHD is me. I am someone. I live in Korea. I speak some Korean. I cannot even imagine trying to understand this in Korean. The person who translated this, they deserve a lot of money and a lot of recognition, because, oh my God, I'm trying to follow the subject in English. This is my native language. I'm trying to follow this idea. These sentences were so long and meandering. The word meandering comes up in the description of this book on Storygraph. There is no, whatever you think of when you're thinking of meandering, make it 5 times longer than that. That's what you're signing up for. If that sounds interesting to you, maybe you would enjoy this. He's reflecting on his experiences in Texas, being an outsider. There's a part where he's talking about like Lee Harvey Oswald, who's the guy who killed JFK. And he's like wondering about like, did Lee Harvey Oswald have dogs? And like, whatever happened to the dog? And it's like, I don't care. I don't care. I just, oh my God. These are the types of moments when I wish that Storygraph had comments and like a like feature and people could like interact with my DNFs and my reviews, because some of them are really good. And this one, what I said was, if you want to experience the reading equivalent of a man singing Wonderwall in a dark dorm room a cappella, boy do I have the book for you. That was this book. Okay, so if that sounds fun to you, maybe you'd like this book. There's actually a girl that, I don't know this girl at all, but I follow her because she seems cool. And she gave it 4 stars. And I'm just, what? Maybe she's really into the JFK assassination. And that was like, once he started talking about that, she was like, I'm in. I don't know if he keeps talking about it, but it was at 24%. I was like, I can't deal with this anymore. So sorry to Jung Young Moon. That was not for me. I think it's also, I think he can't help this, but the fact that he's a man, I just don't care about what a man is thinking about. I think most of the authors I read last year were women. Like, I have a very low tolerance for pretentiousness from men. So that was book number 4. So that was March. The next book I DNF'd was not until June. So that's quite a stretch of time. We Could Be Rats by Emily Austen. Now, the interesting thing about this author, Emily Austen, is I actually have a lot of Emily Austen's books on my TBR. This was also on my TBR, in part for the title, but also because the cover is really cool. And I judge books by the cover all the time. But Emily Austen has like so many books that I have saved. Interesting facts about space, that's Emily Austen. She has a new one coming out this year. Is This a Cry for Help? There's other ones I've heard of. Everyone in this room will someday be dead, be gay, do crime. Actually, I don't know. Her name isn't on that. Why is it under her author? There's reason. I'm interested in reading from her. But yeah, it's contemporary. From what I remember, you're like reading the journal of this girl who has dark thoughts about the end of her time on this earth. I was pretty decently through it. I was more than halfway, 67. Oh my God. War flashbacks. Actually, in June, 6-7 was a thing, but my kids didn't know about it because like Korean memes, the ones that get started in America, they're always a few months late. So I know 6-7 was happening in America before June, but it happened to me personally in November. So I did not know, for the record, that when I was stopping this book at 67%, I'd be doing this to myself. Anyway. But at 67%, my copy got returned to the library, and I just didn't feel compelled to keep reading. I said that I found the writing a bit YA, which it's not a YA book, but the character who's writing your reading is not a young adult in that she's a teenager, but I do think she's like early 20s, which is like same different, you know? Same different, same different, same different, same difference. Anyway, close enough. They're in their early 20s. It believably felt like an undergrad attempt at creative writing, I said. Also, that is a self-read because I did not go to school for creative writing, but I did take 2 poetry classes, brag, just for funsies. And it reminds me of the poems that I wrote for that class and also the angsty poems I wrote in high school. So maybe it is really accurate and I just can't deal with being reminded of myself, and I can't look at that with compassion for myself. Oh my God, different color. Shame, shame. Because usually when we hate things in others, it's because they remind us of ourselves. But you've never heard that before. Oh yeah, but I read 67% of the book, and the title was said verbatim 3 times. Like, we could be rats. So that kind of felt like a lot of times to say the title. I feel like with a title, you either have to say it 1 time or like not at all. Or like so often that it like stops being a word. You know how like when you say a word so many times, it just doesn't feel like a word anymore? Also, what is the story about? It is the story of an attempt to end living by one person. And it deals with addiction and dysfunctional families. It wasn't that topic that I didn't want to engage with. It was really just kind of the writing. I think had the timing worked out, I probably would have finished it, but it just got returned and I was like, I think there was like a wait. So I was just like, okay, not really interested in finishing, but I am interested in her other books. I have like 2 of her other books on my TBR. So maybe, I don't know, I'll probably come back to her. Emily Austen, that's not a threat. I come to you with love and light. Maybe not now, but like later. Okay, and the last book I did not finish was in July. So honestly, like I said, I was really pushing through for the rest of the year. Like, there were books I should have DNF'd, but I didn't. But it's not what this video is about. This video is about the books I didn't finish. And that last book is A Gathering of Shadows by V.E. Schwab, which is the 2nd book in the Shades of Magic series. I got the first one. It's on a shelf. Where is it? Over there. You can't see, but it's there. Maybe you can. If you can, zoom in. Did you hear that? That was my stomach. The first book I have, because I think it was in Aladdin, which is the used bookstore in Korea. It's like a chain. I'm sure there are other bookstores, but like that's like the main one. I was browsing an Aladdin online store. I saw the title from a seller who I was already going to be buying books from. So I was like, why not? I didn't love it. I think I actually might have said specifically that it was a book and a series written for an audience that did not know what a 401k is, which would make sense. Again, YA. But we're learning with me from the Axie book and also this one. I think I'm just too much of a hater to be reading YA at my big age of 29. Guys, I'm 29. I mean, technically last year, this is going to blow somebody's mind. Last year, I was 29 because in Korean age, I was 29 last year. In Korean age this year, I'm 30. That's crazy. But that just means I spend the whole year feeling like both ages. And then I feel like once I actually turn 30, I'm going to be like, I was 30 last year. Anyway, what are we talking about? We're talking about, book 2 of this series. The first book, like I said, I mean, it's a YA book, YA series. I think I've aged out. I finished the first book. I don't think I gave it a super high rating. I want to say like in the 2s, maybe a 3. You'll find out eventually what I gave it. This one, it's the same characters. There's these 3 different Londons, and people can like, not all people, but like if you have this power, you can like go between the different Londons, and there's only like 2 people alive who can still go through the Londons, and they're kind of like parallel universes, which is a really cool premise. It's very interesting. I just didn't really care about this second book. Like, I read the first book. I still remember like what happened in the first book. Thought it was interesting. I think I really would have liked this in middle school. Like, for sure. I think like as an 8th grader specifically, I would have been really into this. For this second book, we're with the same characters, but like now there's pirates involved. I know there is an audience for this book because I feel like I have met in my years alive the type of teenager who's really into steampunk and would eat this shit up, but it's just not me. It's not me, guys. That's just my truth. Yeah, so like I tried, I just didn't care about the story, so I didn't finish it. It was 10%. Okay, so actually that's less than the first book I read. Maybe something exciting would have happened and I would have enjoyed it, but that was the book. The bonus, should I say a bonus? The bonus book that I should have DNF'd was The Spear That Cuts Through Water, which I will talk about once I make the video where I talk about the other books I read this year. Not this year, we're in 2026. The books that I read in 2025. So yeah, those were 6 books that I didn't finish. And that's it. Goodbye.